Week 6 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few running backs I looked at off the wire this week. The first running back, Tank Bigsby of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's been on and off the list this season, is Tank Bigsby, but now it looks like he might be the man over there in Jacksonville in the backfield. He had snapped Travis Etienne in last week's ball game, and he just went off with a monster performance. So the last few games for Bigsby, week 4 at Houston, 7 carries, 90 yards, and then the expanded workload in week 5 versus the Colts, 13 carries, 101 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, a catch, 28 yards on 1 target. The only thing with Bigsby, he's not going to be a passing downs back, where Travis Etienne's a better receiver out of the backfield than Tank Bigsby. But in between the tackles and explosiveness, I think Tank Bigsby, he has the upper hand in that for this Jacksonville Jaguar team. He could run in between the tackles as Tank Bigsby. He's a tough runner, and we've seen it the last couple weeks here where Travis Etienne's been nicked up a little bit with some shoulder issues on and off. So Bigsby's taking advantage of it, and he's available in tons of fantasy leagues at 78%. He's the top pickup at the running back position this week. The next back, Ty Chandler, the Minnesota Vikings. I know the Vikings are on bye next week, but now Aaron Jones, he went down with a hip injury, and he was ruled out pretty quickly in that ball game in London versus the New York Jets. So Ty Chandler, last season, we saw some flashes from him towards the end of the year. Now, like I said, they're going on bye, and I believe Aaron Jones could be ready to go in that ball game, week 7 versus the Lions, but you never know. So Ty Chandler, pretty much, you don't have to put in a claim for him, I believe, because with the bye week and an extra week for Jones to heal, he possibly could be back, but someone definitely keep on the radar. Available in 72% of leagues. So the last few games for Chandler, he didn't see much work in week 4 at Green Bay. 3 carries, 5 yards, a catch, 8 yards. And then week 5, taking over the backfield over Myles Gaskin in the win versus the Jets in London. 14 carries, 30 yards, 2 catches, 9 yards. So this offense, definitely dynamic this season. Ty Chandler, we've seen some decent flashes from him on and off from last season and this year so far. And right now, like I said, with Aaron Jones with the hip injury, even though I believe he should return in week 7, still definitely someone to keep on the radar this week. The next back, Tyrone Tracy of the New York Giants. Devin Singletary, he was out in that ball game in an upset victory at the Seahawks. And Tyrone Tracy went out there and he had a monster game, 18 carries, 129 rush yards, a catch for 1 yard. So the 5th-round pick, he got an opportunity and obviously made the most of it at the Seattle Seahawks, where their run defense has definitely struggled over the last few weeks. So like I said, Singletary was out. We don't know how long he's going to be out as Singletary. But now, with that groin injury and Tracy breaking out, the young running back, and this Giant team, we know they're still in the hunt of things, but obviously, as the year goes on, I don't believe they'll be in a wild card race or even for the division. I believe Tracy has a good opportunity, especially after a game like that, to at least split work with Singletary or take over as the running back as the weeks go on. So right now, while he's available in tons of fantasy leagues, is Tracy in 77%. And next week, a pretty decent matchup coming up versus Cincinnati Bengals. He's one of the bigger ads at the running back position this week. The next back, Cam Akers of the Houston Texans. Joe Mixon, he's missed 3 weeks now with the ankle injury, and Cam Akers, he's filled in, and the numbers haven't been great. He's getting starter snaps, he's playing in dynamic offense, and he's made the most of his opportunity. Week 3 in Minnesota, 9 carries, 21 yards, a catch, 8 yards, a touchdown. Week 4 versus the Jaguars, 13 carries, 53 yards. And week 5 versus the Bills, 9 carries, 42 yards, a touchdown, 2 catches, 5 receiving yards. He's not much of a receiver out of the backfield. Gombawale, who I'm going to talk about later in this video, is the receiving back. But like I said, Cam Akers, he's made the most of his opportunity. I know the numbers haven't been great, but with bye weeks and injuries over the last few weeks, you got to get running backs off the wire who start. And Akers has been one of them, and who knows with Joe Mixon when he's going to return. The next back, Roschon Johnson of the Chicago Bears. Roschon Johnson, 2 touchdowns in last week's ball game. I know DeAndre Swift, he went out there and had another monster performance, but Johnson, 10 carries, 25 yards, and the 2 goal line stompers, like I said, for the Chicago Bear team. So he's been getting some work at the goal line, and pretty much Khalil Herbert's been the running back phased out in the backfield. Week 3 at Indianapolis, 8 carries, 30 yards, 4 catches, 32 yards. Week 4 versus the Rams, 7 carries, 26 yards, found the end zone. And week 5 versus the Panthers, 10 carries, 25 yards, and 2 touchdowns, like I said. So Johnson, number 2 back on this team. He's still getting 8 to 12 touches per game. And I believe he's got that goal line work pretty much locked in, even though we saw DeAndre Swift take a short one into the end zone. So right now, while he's out there in 80% of fantasy leagues, he's definitely an ad this week. Next back, Jaleel McLaughlin for Broncos. So nice ball game for McLaughlin in this Bronco team. I know Javonte Williams had a good workload, 18 total touches between carries and catches in that one versus the Vegas Raiders. McLaughlin, though, did find the end zone, and right now he's available in 80% of fantasy leagues. A deeper league with buys coming up and stuff, I think McLaughlin can help fantasy owners as a deeper option. So the last few games, week 3 at Tampa, 5 carries, 7 yards, a touchdown, a catch, 7 yards. Week 4 at the Jets, 9 carries, 46 yards, a catch for no yards. In week 5 versus the Raiders, like I said, he got 9 touches, 6 carries, 22 yards, 3 catches, 3 yards, and found the end zone. So week 6 versus the Los Angeles Chargers, it'll be a closer game than it was between the Raiders and the Broncos. And we know McLaughlin, he's got upside, he's got breakaway speed, and he's a game-breaking type of running back. But obviously this season he hasn't been in good space to get things going and make big plays week in and week out. But this Bronco team all of a sudden now have won 3 games in a row, and McLaughlin, he's looked decent over the last couple weeks, and it's a good tandem with him and Williams in the backfield. So if you need some running back help in deeper leagues, like I said, he's out there in 80% of fantasy leagues. Next back's Jalen Wright of the Miami Dolphins. We saw Raheem Mostert return in week 5 at the Pats, and we also saw Devon Achane go down with a concussion. So Jalen Wright, he's on bye in week 6. I believe Devon Achane should be fine and ready to go in the week 7 return off the bye week in Indianapolis. But right, the last couple weeks, he's looked decent at times, and he's getting decent workload as well. Week 4 versus Tennessee, 9 carries, 32 yards on a target. In week 5 at the Patriots, led the backfield in running, 13 carries, 86 yards. So he's getting a decent workload. And if Achane is still out after the bye week, even though I believe he should be out of the concussion protocol, Jalen Wright, I believe, will step in as the starter over Mostert, and definitely someone to get off the wire. Available right now in 92% of fantasy leagues. And the final running back I look to get off the wire is Dare Agumbawale of the Houston Texans. Agumbawale, he had a big workload, and he out-touched Cam Akers in that ball game, especially receiving the football out of the backfield with 21 touches. Available in 99% of fantasy leagues. Like I said early in the video, Joe Mixon, we don't know when he's going to return, where this ankle sprain has been nagging since the end of week 2. In the last 2 games for Agumbawale, he's gone out there and made the most of his opportunity. Week 4 versus Jacksonville, 2 carries, 7 yards, 4 catches, 47 yards, a touchdown. And week 5 versus Buffalo, 15 carries, 30 yards, 6 catches, 57 yards on 7 targets. So like I said, he's more receiving back in between the tackles. He's not really going to do much. A smaller back a little bit is Agumbawale, but it's been working for this Texan team, where they've won the last 3 out of 4 anyway, where Mixon went down in the middle of that week 2 ball game versus the Chicago Bears. So this is a good offense. He's making some plays, catching the football out of the backfield, and definitely has value in PPR leagues. So that's a few running backs I looked at off the wire week 6 of the fantasy football season.